I think people, when they come into this, they feel the excellence. This is the greatest job in the world, I'll tell you. I get to give out the gold jacket. I get to give the Hall of Fame rating of excellence in their stadium in front of their fans. But I also get to knock on their door. God bless you, man.
Yeah, you are the most beautiful thing I've seen in a long time.
David, why is this building and those who are enshrined in it so revered?
The reason the Pro Football Hall of Fame is here is because this is where the game started. 10 teams came together here in Canton and created this incredible thing. We call it the most inspiring place on earth because I think this is the legacy of the greatest that ever played the game. This is excellence. There have been 330 million young men that played the game of football. Only 5 million played it in college. Only 25,488 played in the first century of the NFL. And there's only 326 bronze busts here. That is elite company.
Why the connection to the fan?
You know, football has kind of become America's passion. When we have the enshrinement here that we start in every August to kick off the NFL season, the line to go through this room, despite everything we can do to keep it moving, Tom, is 3 hours long. Just to be with these bronze busts and feel the greatness and the eliteness. I've had people here a week or 2 weeks before their life was over. And they had to be here. They had to be in this room. And I think most of us watch the games with our family. So this is family. It's the only sport where every player needs every teammate on every play just to survive. And that's kind of a great metaphor for life. We need each other every day. If you're playing at Lambeau Field, there's frozen tundra stuck in your face mask. And you have to fight to get through it. Whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Roger Staubach, throw a Hail Mary. They've seen that, you know, it's never over until the end. There's always hope.
Welcome to Canton, Ohio.
Thank you, man.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
On behalf of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it's my privilege to welcome you to Canton, Ohio. I want to thank you for all you've done for the game, for all you're going to do for the game, because this is going to be the beginning of your journey, not the end of your football career.
If this is the castle, you are the courier. When you look into the eye of a recipient who has finally reached the ultimate of their NFL ambition, what do you see?
We have done our best to try to take fans with us, to have the cameras there so that they can feel what they feel. But initially, it's excitement. They're in the Hall of Fame, you know, and I always say they're going to Canton. You know, they're not thinking about their records or their money or their rings. They're thinking about their mom, who drove them to practice when they were 10 years old, or their dad who wouldn't let them quit, or that coach who put his arm around them and made them think that they could be more, or that teammate that sacrificed for them to help get them here. And in a moment, it was that John Stallworth, one of our Hall of Famers, was talking about putting on the gold jacket. And he said it was as if all the history of the game was wrapped around him from the time they first laced up a pigskin to play football to the last Lombardi trophy. And I think guys feel at that moment a legacy, a affirmation, a redemption, a resurrection, if you will, that somebody said, well done, good and faithful servant.
That's your signature, affirming them.
Yeah.
What is the impact?
Yeah, I think this is very important, Tom, because this isn't about the worship of football heroes. You know, every one of these guys did not fall out of bed great. We think they did as fans. We thought they were bigger, faster, stronger. They earned it. There's not one guy here who didn't miss a block as an offensive lineman or a tackle as a defender or drop a pass as a wide receiver. And the question is, how did you fight through that? I'm told these bronze busts will last for 40,000 years. But this is a person's life, life at least on this earth. And to be able to be in this group is a huge affirmation because all of these guys had to persevere. They had to get up when they got knocked down. They had to move on when they didn't think they could move on. When people told them that they weren't good enough, they didn't believe it and they kept going. And I'm not sure all your viewers can have a bronze bust here in Canton, Ohio. But by looking at the values, the commitment, the integrity, the courage, the respect, the love, that these guys employed those values to drag a lot of other people to greatness, it might make us better fathers or better mothers or better executives or a better community. This is something that can make us a better country. It's bigger than football, Tom.
legacy. How do we let that fuel us now while we're living rather than waiting until we're remembered?
Yeah. You know, I think with every decision that's made, every action taken, a legacy is formed. And what's interesting here is that every one of these bronze busts has a story. A legacy is not pristine, it's not perfect. It is snot coming out of your nose, and it's blood coming out of your mouth, and it's a filthy, dirty uniform. And I think what we learn from that is you gotta fight to save your marriage, or maybe fight to survive a divorce, or fight to save that child, or fight to form that company that employs so many others, or fight to do what's right. And all of these guys were fighters. They did not relent, they did not give up, and they got knocked down plenty of times. But I think that they went on to fight for greatness. The Hall of Famer Vince Lombardi said that you can never achieve perfection. And certainly as believers in Jesus Christ, we know there was one guy who did. But we can never achieve perfection. There's going to be lots of sin in our life. But Lombardi said, if you constantly chase perfection, you might just capture excellence. This represents that excellence. And it's a great message to us that we can pursue excellence in our life, in our relationships with the others, in our conduct, in our productivity, and all of that adds up to a legacy that we're all going to leave, good or bad.
I gather at the Hall, it's connecting the fan more than fan loyalty is everything else that should resonate within us about the game, correct?
Yeah, I think we can identify with the battle. And in the games we watch, there's a fall from grace. Sometimes there's a redemption or a resurrection, and it is a play. But there's so many guys that have to come into this team. 53 on the field right now, 70 that are on the roster, and everybody has to perform their job. I've often thought how unique it was that Jesus Christ Church was really 12 guys, that were his disciples. And by the way, one of them betrayed him, which left him those other 11 guys. And those other 11 guys, since Christ's ministry was only really 3 years, those other 11 guys, along with a few others, like the Apostle Paul, changed the world. So that now, 2,000 years later, you and I are sitting here in Canton, Ohio, in the most inspiring place on earth, talking about Jesus Christ. And it was really his teammates that believed in him and believed in what he was doing. The Jesus Christ that I know had a lot of love. He would talk to the woman at the well, or Zacchaeus in a tree, or the rich young ruler, or the Roman centurion. And he would speak the truth to them, and he would understand their hurt. He wanted the woman at the well who had 5 husbands, he wanted her to know that this is a living well, and that if she drinks from this, she'll never thirst again. And I think that is why his disciples did such an incredible job of following him, and the deaths that they endured, they believed in him.
What do these high achievers all have in common?
I think that common of believing in something, of believing that they could, believing in each other. Introduce Jim Brown, and all the other Hall of Famers stand up. The perseverance of the never giving up, but also what he did for social reform. He translated that to life. But I'll tell you, at our enshrinement, when we go back and do the transcripts, the word love is used 140, 150 times. They loved the game, they loved each other, and they wouldn't let anything stop them.
What kind of a conversation, if they could have one, would go on here?
Tom, this is John Madden. I don't think I've ever known anybody who loved the game more than him. And in his enshrinement speech, he said that when the last fan had left during the day and the janitor had turned out the lights, that he was absolutely convinced that these guys talked to each other. I will say that their legacies talk to each other. Their legacies speak to me. I know in particular, Derek Brooks was concerned about where he was going to be, because he's going to be right across from Warren Sapp. And he thought he'd never get any sleep, never get any peace.
David, it's fitting to me that it takes a man bigger than other big men to usher them into something larger than life. Do you ever wonder, why me in this specific role?
My mom and dad couldn't read or write, and if it wasn't for a whole lot of coaches and this game, I don't think I would have the beliefs. I wouldn't have been able to persevere through the mistakes I've made in life. I wouldn't hold these principles so dear. The values that I've learned in athletics are very similar in a lot of respects to what I've learned by following Jesus Christ and what Scripture talks about.
What would the bust of Jesus Christ read?
Yeah, I think it would either just say love or would say come to me. Now, he had power and he had force and he had truth, but he would understand their hurt. Somehow it was so powerfully done in love that it was different. He wanted to heal their wound. You don't have to do anything except open the door of your heart and let him come in. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to get a degree. You don't have to have a certain amount of money. You just have to recognize that we're all sinners, and I'm a sinner. I have failed at many things in my life, and I'm capable of incredible sins now. But the good news is they've been forgiven, not because of what I've done or because of what I've earned, but because of what he gave in dying on the cross and rising from the dead with my sins upon him so I could be forgiven. And that grace, it is abundant and everlasting grace.
It has all the elements of eternity, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, Tom. When I've knocked on that door, I've looked into their eyes. I think I've got a glimpse of their soul. They're thinking about their journey. Even a bronze bust only lasts for 40,000 years. Our life in Jesus Christ is that is forever. Revelation 3:20 says, "Behold, I stand at the door and I knock. And any man who answers the door, I will come in, and there will be a union between Jesus Christ and me." All you have to do is humble yourself and answer the door. And he will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And eternity is a lot longer than 40,000 years.
If we were to take it beyond this building, looking into the eye of everybody else, in a life well lived, how would you affirm them?
Jesus Christ said he was leaving this earth to prepare a place for you, your own Hall of Fame. And all you have to do is accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, and that will change your life. We're going to get tackled for loss. There's going to be interceptions. There's going to be some fumbles in our life. But it's all about how you come back from that. And you got to have a coach. And Jesus Christ is the greatest coach of all time. You got to have a game plan. And the Bible is an incredible game plan for life. And I think that what you want in your life is the same thing that I want in mine, and the same thing that each one of these men wanted in their football career. That when Jesus Christ knocks on your door, he can say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. I have a wonderful place for you, not just for 40,000 years, but for all eternity."